Gotta remember to turn myself off of mute. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mellow Monday. I need to turn down my mic just a tad. It's coming a little hot on there. There we go. That looks better. So yeah, welcome back to another Mellow Monday stream. Continuing to do some painting because it's been working out real well for these streams, and I'm getting a lot of work done that I otherwise wouldn't. So that's good. But yeah, we are continuing to do some painting of the Marvel United figures that I have. Last time we were working on Groot, which I finished off stream. Like, there wasn't much left with Groot. Basically, what I ended up doing was I just finished doing the base of the figure. So, like, I added in the blue to make sure that that picked up well for matching the other heroes that I have, because I'm trying to make all the heroes have a blue base, all the villains have a red base. Once I get to the Marvel United X-Men boxes, then I will have to contend with doing purple for their anti-hero bases. But we'll get to that when we get to that, won't we? But yeah, so basically I just worked on the finishing off the base, put in a little bit of highlighting on the rocks, added the color on the base, and I went through and I clear coated this. So compared to the previous ones where I put on a semi-gloss clear coat, which I think works well for like Venom and Carnage, where they're they should be wet looking type characters anyway, with the symbiote and all that. With this one, I went with a flat clear coat. And thankfully, I got a spray can to do it that way. I had a little bit of problems with doing a clear coat on Venom because I was brushing it on, and that started to pull up some of the paint, which I ran into. So having a can of clear coat worked out way better in this case. Much more even, and I think the quality came out really well on it. And I once again, like, the camera, I think between the camera and the lighting doesn't show up super duper well, but got a lot done on this figure. Like, it's got very good definition on the top areas versus the creases. The moss covering that I painted on a few areas really shines through on it quite a bit, I think. It, like I said, it's for some reason just doesn't show up quite so well on camera, which is a shame. I wish I had, the camera I have does not have a good focus setting. Actually, it doesn't have a focus setting at all, so I can't really, like, zoom in on this, or focus to make the figure sharper, unfortunately. And the lighting kind of makes it, gives it a bit of a glare, even though I don't personally have a glare on my side. So it's unfortunate that it doesn't show up quite as well as I was hoping it would on camera. But yeah, that's where we left off last time with Groot. But he is all done for the moment. So this stream, we are going to be focusing on getting Daredevil painted. So I have previously gone through and primered this. There's actually a little bit of fibers sticking around there. All right, cool. That should be better. So yeah, so we're going to be working on Daredevil this stream. So This character does not have a ton of color variants that I need to worry about. Basically, we're going to be doing a red coat on this. We've got the face, which I have a flesh color for that, I believe. Yeah, we've got a flat flesh color that I will be using for his face. His mouth, we can just do a white for that, for the teeth. So that way there's not much to it. The eyes, I will probably try to mix. I'm thinking about what I can do. The eyes should be red, but I'm wondering if I can make that pop a little bit better. We'll figure it out. The emblem, I think I'm gonna just darken up a shade of red a little bit to do the emblem. The gloves are going to be a red-brown color that I have. Same thing for the boots. I think that will go pretty well with it. I'm actually gonna pull up my reference image on my computer here. Yeah, I think that should work pretty well. So we'll do the boots, we'll do the gloves. I might actually take that red-brown that I have, mix it with a little bit of red, just to try to give it a little bit more of a red tone than it might have otherwise. So we'll do the boots in that, the gloves, his belt, and then I am also going to do, I've got a, let's see, what's a good one? I'm thinking I'm going to do this chrome silver, so that we can do the belt buckle in that. We'll do the tips of the batons with that. The batons themselves will be a black. Do I have? I think my black is a glossy black. It is a flat black. That'll still work fine. So we'll do a flat black for the baton parts. And then for the statue, I am honestly on the fence with this. So the statue he's standing upon very much has the look, because like it's missing the head, it's missing part of the wing. Generally, I would say that would be sort of a. Generally, we'll see that on more of a stone statue. But I'm wondering if it might look a little bit better if we made it into sort of a bronze. So basically, you know, like a very aged bronze where it's probably closer to a gunmetal type shade of color. So it'd be a much darker silver kind of thing. And then we can accent it with some dark green, because that's kind of what happens when bronze starts to oxidize from age, that kind of thing. So we could do that. I'm on the fence about whether or not to do that, because again, with the missing parts, you would see that more on a stone statue rather than a bronze statue. So it's a tough call, honestly. Could go either way on it. We'll see once we get to it. For now, I think we're just going to focus on getting, well, I mean, ultimately, by the time I get down to here, we'll have most of the rest of the figure done. So we will decide on this stream. I just don't know where I'm at on that yet. But first things first, let's work on getting the big part of this figure done, which is obviously going to be the suits. So that is primarily going to be red. So we're just going to do this regular flat red that I have. It's the Tamiya X7 red. We're going to start with that, get the majority of the figure done in that, and then we can do the face and the gloves afterwards. So, get this open. And I will try to keep the paint palette on the I'll try to keep the paint palette off to the side here, so that way you can see it. Alright, so let's get some red thrown in here. Music of choice today, as we're going with the Undertale soundtrack. Some of it's pretty chill music. Obviously, this one's a little bit more intense, but I like the soundtrack a lot. It's a very, very fun soundtrack. But also this time around, so I can try to make sure that I give credit where credit is due. If you look on the screen, I've got the, the track title and all that is listed there. That way you know what's playing currently. But I've also gone through and put the link to the artist's Bandcamp page, because that's where I actually got the soundtrack from. But yeah, if you go to Toby Fox's Bandcamp page, you'll find his albums there. He's got Undertale and I believe Deltarune Episode 1 and 2 are the soundtracks that are on that site currently. So when I'm listening to stuff, I'm generally going to be listening to one particular artist, and I will try to make sure that I put a link to where I got their music from. That way you can go and if you're curious what else they have, or if you want to get the music yourself, it's there. That way you can go check it out. I want to make sure that people get the credit that they deserve for this stuff. So, all right. You know what? This is looking a tad thin. Let me try doing a quick brush on the figure and see if this is going to hold. This might be a bit thin for trying to go on the figure. I might have done a little too much water in this, so we'll see. Let's just try giving this a quick brush and see if it holds. That might be a bit too loose. Going to get a little bit of paint on here, mix that in. That will hopefully thicken up the paint just a tad. That way it's not being super thin when I'm trying to paint it on. Usually it'd just be a situation of I need to put on more coats, but part of the problem of putting on paint very thin is, and I believe I've explained this on previous streams, but if it's too thin, the paint doesn't hold well on edges and corners and stuff like that. It basically just kind of seeps off of the edges, so that the edges remain bare, but the flat surfaces keep the paint. So rather than try to do this figure and then find out that none of the edges are holding, I'll just give the paint a little bit more. Oops, there we go. I'm gonna just adjust my mic a little bit. There we go. That should be better. Oh yeah, that's holding on way better now. And as always, going pretty, we're not trying to be super accurate on the paint job right away, because that will come later. We just want to make sure that we get everything hits that is potentially going to be red in this case, and anything that comes close to it. That way, if we happen to miss something, it won't be uncovered later. So, yeah. And so, fun thing is, didn't even think of this when I was picking the figure out for the stream. Honestly, originally I was looking at potentially doing Ant-Man, but I was looking through my paints, and I don't have a metallic red. I'm actually going to be looking through to see if I can order a more metallic red, or potential option I can do is I can do a coat of chrome, and then I have a clear red that I can throw over that. It's not quite the right feel. I tried it, and it like kind of works, but it's one of those things where I was like, I don't know. This might be not the right call for this figure, so I'm holding off on Ant-Man for right now, while I try to find a good solution for doing the red metallic parts of him, which honestly will also help because eventually I'm going to need to do Iron Man, and there is definitely some metallic red components to his suit for sure. So we'll get around to that eventually. But yeah, decided looking through my figures, you know what? Daredevil, pretty easy. Not a lot of metallic parts to him, so I don't really need to worry about not having the correct colors to do Daredevil. But kind of a nice side thing from this is Daredevil is going to be coming back in the Marvel stuff again. Specifically MCU stuff. He is coming back from the three-season stint from the Netflix series, doing some more stuff. So I believe they're doing a Daredevil mini-series called Born Again for Disney Plus, where they're bringing back Charlie Cox, which awesome. He does a good Daredevil. I think I talked about this last stream, but I really enjoyed the Marvel Netflix stuff for the most part. Some of it was I'm looking at you, season 1 of Iron Fist for the part. But yeah, I really enjoyed a good chunk of the Marvel Netflix stuff, and certainly the first season of Daredevil was fantastic. Second season was decent. I haven't seen the third season, but I've heard it was pretty good. So I'll need to go and give that a watch at some point. But I really enjoy Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. He did a dang good job playing the character. This might not have enough primer on it. The paint's not holding super well on this part. We'll see if we can make this work. But yeah, so I like Charlie Cox a lot, playing Matt Murdock, Daredevil. Thought he did a very good job. He's a very good actor. I liked him a lot in Boardwalk Empire as well. I had some complaints about the Netflix Daredevil, but that mostly was kind of nitpicking stuff where it's like, I wish they did his weaknesses a little bit better, where is one of the things that I appreciated about the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck was, you know, he had these powers, but there were limitations to it where it's just like, you know, any very, very loud sounds kind of just overwhelm him. I felt like they did a good job of showing that in the movie, and the show doesn't quite ever get into that area. He's essentially blind without having any real indication that he is blind, kind of thing. Like his power has no setbacks, so for all intents and purposes, he is sighted in the Marvel Netflix series. Because even when there's loud sounds, it doesn't really seem to affect him at all. So, felt like they could have done a better job with that. But, story-wise, they did an excellent job. The fight choreography, obviously, is just fantastic in that show. The fact that, you know, you can still look back at, you know, the first season of Daredevil, and they've got the hallway fight. The one-take hallway fight, which was just perfect. And they did that, well, they tried to do that again in season 2 with him protecting Frank Castle, the Punisher. While he's got the... Or no, sorry. It's the one-shot fight that he has where he's got the gun taped to his hand. That was an excellent, excellent fight scene as well. The choreography was fantastic. It's just they did a really good job with it where you feel the weight of the fight. Like, it's not one of these things where they fight and it's like, oh, look at all the cool stuff that they're doing, and they just keep going, and it gets wackier and wackier. And they didn't do that with Daredevil. Very much, especially with the single-shot fight scenes that they did each season. You feel the weight of the fight. Like, it's... The people involved are just throwing so much force behind everything, and you can see them getting just really, really tired throughout the whole thing. It really gives weight to the whole situation of, oh, this is taking a lot of effort to do. Like, they are putting everything behind this fight, and, you know, this is not an easy thing. It makes the fights feel more real, I feel. Where it's just... It's incredibly intense, and they are not going to do, like, a quick recovery after this kind of thing, you know? I need to give this a quick mix. It's getting a little thin again. Let's give the paints a little bit Or give the brush a little bit of a wash. Pull on this paint again and see if this goes on a little bit better. That's still coming in really thin. I don't know if this is showing up well, but it's kind of beating off the horns here. It's not really sticking all that well. Let me try to even this out first, and then I'm going to mix in a little bit more paint to try to get everything to hold better. Because it's just not quite sticking to the model. Now that could be a couple things. Could be the paint is thin, which I'm looking at it in the thing, and you can see along the edges it's pretty thin. So I feel like that's primarily the thing. But other things that it could be, because this was a thing that I saw on the bottom of the figure, or the undersides of the figure was, you know, there's a few areas of the figure that I hit with a can of primer. It's really hard to get the underside of areas. You just kind of don't have the ability to hit that kind of angle on the figure. So in those areas, it's not really, the paint's not really going to hold as well to the figure because there's not a lot for the paint to grip onto. We can get around that, like, if you put on enough layers of paint, like, it's not going to hold super well initially, but the paint will stick on top of the other layers of paint, and you put in enough layers and it'll get there. And then once I put on a clear coat, that'll hold the whole thing together so that the paint won't kind of slough off of it, kind of thing. Alright, let's see if this works a little bit better. It's kind of working a little bit better. It's not... The paint isn't quite beating off the edges like it was before. I think that's doing a little bit better. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit everything that we can here. We're going to do the eyes. We're going to go a little bit past the mask onto the face because we want to make sure that we get everything that we need to with the face. We want to make sure that everything's got a good amount of coverage on the face. And if we go a little bit over on the edges of the mask, then that will make sure that when we do the flesh, we don't have to be... or more so, once we go to do the face and flesh, we've already hit all the edges of the mask that have a ridge, so it will make it so that we don't have to go through and do extra detail work with the red after. I always want to do a little bit of overage just so that we fill in any potential empty spaces, and it makes our detail work a little bit easier after. But we're definitely going to have to do a couple layers on this red because it is still going on pretty thin, all things considered. So... It'll end up looking pretty good though, I think. Just gotta make sure we hit absolutely everything. Let's see if I can hold it this way. There's a decent amount of gap between the mask and the neck. Wonder if that's intended. Can't tell if it's just the figure is not quite fused together perfectly. Like, so you can kind of tell right here. This arm is actually either glued or snapped onto the model. So it's so there's definitely some seams on this, and it could be that the head is not fully snapped on or glued on, and that's why there's a gap with the neck. That's a good track. You know, confession, I have not played Undertale. I have watched it played, and it's a very, very cool game. I do not think I would be very good at the bullet hell aspect of it, but I can still appreciate that it is a very good game. I have watched both a genocide run and a pacifist run, so I've got probably I can't tell if I need to like watch probably more playthroughs of it to see if there's stuff I missed in the playthroughs that I've watched, but I think I've seen most everything there is in the game. So there's not really anything in terms of spoilers that there could be for it for me at this point. That being said, I have not watched anything on Deltarune yet. So I do need to give that a watch at some point in time. I feel like, very much like Undertale, if Deltarune has similar battle mechanics, I will probably be trash at it, so I might just see if I can find a nice playthrough of it to watch. Because I am not very good at the, I'm not as exceptionally good at, any type of bullet hell mechanics and stuff like that. As has been fairly evident in my off-stream time where I picked up, Returnal, because it's a PS5 exclusive, and I finally got one of those. But I picked up Returnal, and it is a fun game, and I am terrible at it. Like, I appreciate the atmosphere. The mechanics behind it are very, very good. Honestly, one of the things that I love about the game that kind of gives me a better appreciation for the hardware that comes with the PS5 is the adaptive triggers on the thing. I was like, oh, that's an interesting gimmick. I don't think it's really worth it, but hey, it's a cool thing to have on the system. I didn't think much about the adaptive triggers, but Returnal, I feel, does a good job of... Oop, that's a little bit too little paint, so I need some more. Returnal, I feel, does a great job of showing off the adaptive triggers on the DualSense controller. And it's down to exactly one thing. Like, I don't care about having, like, resistance for a trigger pull and stuff like that. Like, that's kind of, I don't really see the... the need for something like that. That said, for like racing games or something like that, I could see the adaptive triggers making use of resistance on the pull. As long as that's something that someone can set, because some people have like sort of motor skill disabilities and stuff like that, where they can't really do a resistive pull, that kind of thing. So as long as that's something that they can switch off, that's nice. But for car racing, I could kind of see the adaptive trigger being something cool. But Returnal does something so basic and yet works so well. But it's so basic that I didn't even notice it while I was playing until I turned the system off. And I don't know how I didn't notice it when I was playing, because it's fairly obvious in retrospect. But Returnal has, control-wise, your right trigger, L2, or R2, is the trigger for your gun, as expected, because it's a shooter. But your left trigger, a full pull on the left trigger, so L2, a full pull on that charges your alt fire for your gun. So cool. If you do a half pull on it, though, it does a kind of focus zoom. Like, it does a minor zoom, but it lets you kind of just zoom in on the enemy a little bit. So what I'm trying to get at, though, is that the left trigger actually has a resistive half pull on it. So when you pull the trigger down about halfway, it gets to a point where it stops, because that's your zoom. And then if you go beyond that, that is where you get into your charging your alt fire. It's something that feels like it is just part of the trigger, kind of in the same way that the GameCube controller has an analog trigger that, when you get it all the way down, clicks in to act as a button as well, which some games did things with that. But that was a very much a hardware thing with the GameCube controller, where it was built into the controller that it's an analog trigger that turns into a button at the end of the pull. And they emulated that kind of feel with Returnal, where a half pull on the trigger, you can feel it, and it feels like it gets down to a hardware stop on the trigger for the aiming. And then if you pull it beyond that, then you get into the alt fire charge. And it feels like part of the hardware. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is the trigger fighting against me, right? It doesn't feel like it is a motor that is actively pushing against you to make sure that you don't pull it any further, kind of thing. So that's how I didn't really notice it when I was playing the game, was that it just feels like it is part of the controller hardware. It doesn't feel like it is a motor actively fighting against you. And so it's stuff like that where it's a cool little feature that I didn't even notice. And that's kind of the cool thing about it, is that it's there, but it doesn't feel like it's there. So, I don't know if I'm describing it well. I feel like it's kind of a hard thing to describe, because you kind of just have to feel it, kind of thing, you know? But that is the first time with the controller where I've had a definite reaction of, oh, that's actually pretty cool. I like that. I can kind of see the adaptive triggers having a reason to be there now. Granted, it's very minor, but it's something. So yeah. At some point in time, I will need to load something up on the PS5 that is actually intended for the PS5. Because most of the stuff that I've played thus far on it has been PS4 games that I own. Although I did download Demon Souls, the remake that they did. So I will need to give that a play at some point in time. It's been a while since I've played a Souls-like. I imagine I will need to get good, as it were, given the amount of time it's been since I've played one. No, actually, you know what? I did play a little bit of Elden Ring, so it hasn't been super duper long since I've played a Souls-like, although Elden Ring is kind of a whole nother ball of wax. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh, that's Temmie Village. And good soundtrack. God, I went off on like some major tangents. I was talking about Daredevil before. Oh, so, yeah, so I like Charlie Cox playing Daredevil quite a bit, but, yeah, so they're bringing him back for the Born Again miniseries, which we'll have to see how that turns out. I'm hoping that they let them continue the tone of the Marvel Netflix stuff. It's gonna be a rough sell because Disney Plus, so feel like they're not gonna let them get away with the stuff that they would let them get away with on Netflix, but we shall see. It'll be a bit of a tone shift, I imagine, going from Netflix to Disney Plus. But, yeah, we shall see. So there's that. Then there was also the announcement that Daredevil would be in the Echo series that they're doing with the character from the Hawkeye show that they did on Disney Plus. So that'll be cool. Because I did like the Echo character quite a bit. She was very good, and it was quite amazing to find out that, much like her character, she was also legit deaf and missing a leg. And it's like, oh, wow. It's one of those things where you see it and my mind immediately went to, oh, that's decent CGI, because I didn't think they would find an actress that, was both deaf and an amputee. But yeah, that was an interesting thing, and I'm really glad that they are finding more diverse actors and actresses. Not only, was she a person of color, but again, like finding a deaf actress, finding someone that, was missing part of her leg, that kind of stuff, where it's just like, it gives a little bit more representation in the industry where you would potentially not have that. It gives people a little bit more to look at and see characters that are also them, kind of thing. But yeah, so Daredevil's apparently going to be in the Echo series. I don't know how much he's going to be in there, but he will at least be making an appearance in that. And then I think they said that he was also going to be in the She-Hulk series, which, I mean, if so, makes sense. He's a lawyer. She-Hulk is also a lawyer. So it makes sense that Matt Murdock at least would make a cameo in that show. I'll be curious to see if they bring back more of the legal characters from the Marvel Netflix stuff, because they had that in both Jessica Jones and in Daredevil. So it'll be cool to see if they do that a little bit more too. All right, that's, we could use a little bit more. Here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna do out of the cap on this one. But yeah, so it'd be cool to see some of the characters in the legal professions make an appearance in the She-Hulk show. So like Foggy, it'd be cool to see Foggy come back. Karen, obviously. I don't know that they should get like huge parts in that show. I feel like that should be more in the Daredevil side of things. Because you don't want to completely gloss over She-Hulk in that stuff either, right? Because it is her show. It is not the Daredevil show. So you just got to find that right balance of giving the characters enough of an appearance to make it fun while not overdoing it. And I gotta say, it was ridiculously fun seeing the Daredevil cameo in Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, that was a ridiculously fun cameo. It was real cool to see Charlie Cox come back. And it was cute. Like the catching of the brick and going, I'm a really good lawyer, kind of thing. You know, it was fun. This is kind of sticking a bit too much. I think I do need to actually put some more red into the palette, so we're gonna do that. Alright, let's see if I can get just a drop of water in this. There we go. That should be enough to thin it. But yeah, so it'll be cool to see Charlie Cox come back and get to play the character some more. It'd be real cool if we saw the TV show specific characters get more of a showing in the movies too. Like, obviously, Charlie Cox got to do the quick Daredevil cameo. It'd be cool to see him feature more in the movies. And also, apparently, they got, like, I think they got everyone aside from Finn Jones signed back on to play more of their characters from the Marvel Netflix stuff. It'd be real cool to see more from them too, like, especially, you know, like Jessica Jones. I loved her show. Like, it was just fantastic. I do need to watch the rest of it. I had watched, like, the first season, of course. First season was fantastic. I'm part way through the second season. I still need to watch the third season. It's tough. Like, the first season of Jessica Jones was just ridiculously good. It's really hard to top that. David Tennant as Kilgrave was just so good. He really just outdid himself with that role. But I did enjoy the stuff I've seen of season 2 so far. I will get back to it at some point so I can finish it off. The biggest thing I'm running into right now is I'm trying to watch the MCU TV show stuff in order with the stuff that I've missed. So not rewatching, but going through and watching from the beginning all the stuff that I did not watch the first time around. So, like, I've been going through watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I finished watching Agent Carter, because I got past that, and I'm in the 4th season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now. Which, oof, man, I loved, well, I really enjoyed the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I liked how it tied into the movies. It worked very well. Season 2 was pretty forgettable for me. I would be hard-pressed to tell you what happened in Season 2. Season 3 kind of had a bit more going for it, with all the Inhuman stuff. But even then, it was just like, it was okay at best. That being said, I believe it was Season 3 that had Kyle MacLachlan in it. He was fantastic in that show. I loved him playing Cal. He was really, really good in that. But that's just Kyle MacLachlan. Like, he puts his all into whatever role he's doing. So he was a joy to watch in that show. Season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started out pretty good for me. Like, I really liked seeing Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, in there. I thought he was a very cool character. I was very disappointed when I got about halfway through Season 4. I'm still about halfway through. Well, like, I think after 9 episodes, they, like, very quickly wrapped up the Robbie Reyes, Eli Morrow stuff. And I was just like, oh, more Ghost Rider, please? But that was it. Like, they didn't, they just kind of just went, oh, nope, he's gone. And it's just like, okay. I wanted more Ghost Rider. They're doing a lot of stuff with the Darkhold and life model decoys right now, which the life model decoy stuff is okay. It's okay. And the Darkhold stuff was interesting. So I didn't know, going into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that they were the ones that introduced the Darkhold into the MCU. That was something that I saw in the very end of WandaVision, where she gets the Darkhold and is studying it, and then obviously it's a big part of Multiverse of Madness, the second Doctor Strange film. So that was cool. It was cool seeing the Darkhold actually get introduced earlier than I thought it was. That being said, they did a good job of making sure that even if you hadn't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you didn't really need that reference points to really understand about the Darkhold all that much. So there was that. Um, but so all that being said, I have enjoyed um Agents of Shield to a certain extent, but I do wish they would have done more with Ghost Rider. I have seen stuff online that seems to indicate that they were planning on doing a Hulu TV show spin-off for Ghost Rider that never got picked up. So if so, that is sad, because I really enjoyed Gabriel Luna playing the character. Would have liked to have seen more. But yeah, so I do hope to see more of him. It'd be nice to see Robbie make a comeback somewhere in the Disney Plus stuff or the movies. Who knows? Maybe we'll see it. It'd be a nice surprise. Alright, let's see if we can get this logo. Can't tell if this is just blending in super well with the rest of the red, or I'm just not getting enough of it on there. Might need to go with a finer brush and try to go a little bit darker on this. Yeah, that's not really showing up all that well. You know what? I've got a smaller tip brush. I'm gonna try doing that. Let's see if I'm just being too nervous about going too hard on this. But yeah, it would be cool to see Gabriel Luna come back as Daredevil. Or Daredevil. Ghost Rider. I liked him a lot as Robbie Reyes. Speaking of stuff that's come back, I desperately need to watch season 3 of Harley Quinn. I've heard they've released some episodes so far, and I think they've released some episodes for season 3. If they have, I need to get on that immediately, because good God, the first 2 seasons were fantastic. Like, I absolutely loved seasons 1 and 2 of that show. I gotta say, like, they've done a dang good job with both the Harley Quinn TV series and Margot Robbie playing the character in the movies. Like, as much as I did not like the first Suicide Squad film, Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn was fantastic. I absolutely loved the Birds of Prey movie that she was in. there was not a bad performance in that movie. Everyone was perfect. Like, even the very, very different interpretation of Black Mask and Victor Zsasz, both of those characters were very, very different from their comic counterparts. But, good God, they were both just so good in those roles. I remember going into the Birds of Prey movie. I purposely did not look up anything about it beforehand. I went into it blank, basically knowing that, hey, Harley Quinn is in it, and knowing that, hey, it's called Birds of Prey. So I'm going to take a wild guess that the Birds of Prey are going to be in here too. So that was the only info I knew going into it. And I remember when Black Mask first shows up in the movie, Roman Sionis, seeing, so yeah, it did kind of pop up a little bit. You can kind of see it on camera, but the emblem is kind of showing up a little bit better now. But yeah, seeing Roman Sionis show up in the show, or in the movie, and going, is that Ewan McGregor? Because I had no idea. I didn't know that he was in there, and I did not know that he was going to be playing Black Mask. And man, his interpretation of the Black Mask was fantastic. I love what they did. I love the very implied relationship between him and Zsasz. It was very good. The only thing I will say is I was disappointed, and this is kind of a thing that happens with a lot of the superhero movies. I was disappointed that he was killed off at the end of the movie. I was really, really hoping to see more of him. Because, good God, just give Ewan McGregor more roles, please. But yeah, so it was disappointing to see him get killed off at the end of the movie. I would have liked to see more of him. The only other complaint I had about that movie was, I personally didn't like that they made, I didn't like their interpretation of Cassandra Cain. I was hoping for a way more comic book accurate portrayal of that character, because Cassandra Cain is a very, very cool character. It would have been cool to see her in there. The Cassandra Cain that was in that movie, while fun, could have been any other character. They could have named her anything else, and I feel like they should have, because that wasn't really Cassandra Cain. So that was kind of disappointing. But everything else about that movie was, oh boy, just so good. Like, Harley Quinn is very much one of those characters that They could have done it poorly, but everything that she's been in so far, from a actually, let me rephrase that because I have not seen a lot of the. Excuse me. I haven't seen a lot of the DC animated movies that they've done. You know what? I am just gonna do a regular red brown for this. It's not showing up quite good enough for my liking for the gloves, and honestly, I might redo the emblem in just a straight red brown instead of doing a mix. I think I would much rather have the very stark difference in color. But yeah, no, like, when they... So, I like Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn. She has been fantastic in the role. I would love to see her play the character some more. Because also, like, The Suicide Squad was fantastic. I do kind of wish that the Suicide Squad had connected better with Birds of Prey. It's kind of one of the problems with the DC films thus far have been they, aside from Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, which, while not good movies, at least felt connected. The rest of the DC stuff has not felt that way. Kind of feels like the characters or the stories don't connect well between each other, kind of thing. So that's kind of just a general complaint of the DC stuff. But I do, regardless of how well the stuff kind of feels like it connects with each other, Margot Robbie has been fantastic as Harley Quinn. And I would love to see her play the character some more. Granted, a bit busy right now because she is... Although I don't know, they might have already wrapped on it, but Margot Robbie is going to be playing Barbie in the Barbie movie. In that movie, I was not really... didn't really have any interest in initially. Margot Robbie kind of gave me a little bit of an interest in it just because, like, I like her as an actress. So it was like, when it was initially announced, it's like, oh, okay, well, you know what, maybe when it comes out, and I'll pick it up after and see how it is. It might be kind of funny. But then I found out that it was Greta Gerwig who was directing it, and my interest immediately went from to, oh my god, I need to see this. Because I will continue to sing the praises of this movie, but I before the pandemic hits, one of the last movies I saw in the theater was Little Women, directed by Greta Gerwig. And that movie was fantastic. I haven't seen any other versions of it. But my understanding of the other versions of Little Women, and more specific, or in more in general, the book version of it, it's my understanding that they don't have the timelines running, like the so one of the things that they do in the newer Little Women film was they do this shifting between the past and the present. Like a scene will shift from the past to the present, stuff like that. My understanding is that the book doesn't do that, and the other movies do not do that either, because they're following the book. So that is my understanding, at least, is that it's like that. I can't imagine watching Little Women the way that it's done. Like, I can't imagine not watching it in a non-linear fashion like it is in the 2019 version, because it just serves to show the parallels of the story, like, so perfectly. Yeah, like, I can't imagine watching that movie any other way. And again, like, I've not watched the other ones, but the 2019 one was so affecting for me. It was just a really good movie. And if you have not seen it, excuse me, if you have not seen it, go out and give it a watch. Like, it is ridiculously good. The fact that it did not win more awards than it did is just a travesty as far as I'm concerned. It was so good. That being said, like, it had some stiff competition, but, like, the stiffest competition it had was Parasite, which is also an extremely good movie. But yeah, like, I'm just really disappointed that Little Women didn't get more wins than it did, you know? But yeah, so as soon as I found out that Greta Gerwig is directing the Barbie movie, my interest went from to, oh my god, I need to see this. Because the 1-2 punch of Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie is just like, ooh, yeah, no, that's gonna be a pretty good movie, chances are. So I am very much looking forward to it. And the aesthetic of it, just from the shots I've seen of it so far, the aesthetic of the Barbie movie looks spot on. The neon colors are just perfect for it. Yeah, you know what? I am going to hit the emblem again, and I'm gonna do it with the plain red and brown color. I feel like it's gonna make the emblem on the chest pop more. Because right now, you can see there's a difference in color, but it's very, very slight. I feel like the emblem should be a bit more, a bit darker, honestly. So we're gonna try that. Yeah, so those are the things that I'm very much looking forward to. Very much looking forward to watching more of the... Oops, I have some... What did I pull paint off of? Can't see. Very much need to watch more of the Harley Quinn show, because that show is just absolutely amazing. It's very much a show that I didn't know that I needed. And it has been just a amazing piece of work. Like it has done a fantastic job of representing the character, doing, frankly, a lot of different things that I did not expect from a DC property. Like its interpretations of different characters have been fantastic. And in such a way that I'm like actually really okay with the characters being so vastly different between the Harley Quinn TV show and counterparts elsewhere, like in the movies. Like I absolutely love King Shark in the Suicide Squad film, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. King Shark is fantastic in that movie. Love him. King Shark is played very differently in the Harley Quinn show, and at least in my opinion, I love the character in that too, and I feel like it's kind of stunning to see that I like the both interpretations of the character, even though they are vastly different from each other. And they've done just a fantastic job with all the characters. Like, it's very, very goofy, but the kind of just goofy interpretations of the characters are very, very good. Like Clayface especially has been... He was a stun right from the beginning. It's like, oh, I did not expect this interpretation of Clayface. But you know what? I'm fine with it. He's very good. Just Alan Tudyk being fantastic voice actor. I knew he was before, but He's really showing off his chops in the Harley Quinn show, because not only does he do the voice of Clayface, he is also the voice of the Joker in that show, and he's, knocking it out of the park with that voice too. So yeah, it's a dang good show, and I've looked up the voice actress of Poison Ivy a couple times for that show. I do not recognize her other work, but she is really, really good. And I love the show's interpretation of Poison Ivy. Just very well done. She's really good as the character. The character is very funny, but very heartfelt when she needs to be. Yeah, no, she's very, very good. And I appreciate that for the most part, it feels like DC has been very hands-off and letting the writers do what they want with the show. With some exceptions. The biggest one being the thing that was brought up online, where apparently DC had a problem with the show making Batman go down on Catwoman. Seems a very weird policy to take up issue with, given the rest of the show. Their reasoning behind it was even more bizarre, because it's like, well, heroes don't do that. It's like, heroes don't give their partner pleasure. Like, that seems not great message. So like, that was bizarre. But that seems to be the only pushback that they've had from DC on any of their stuff. At least I imagine so, because given what's in the show, I would have thought if DC had a problem with it, we would have heard more, because there's a lot in that show that I was not expecting. But yeah, a lot of words that ultimately come down to me saying, it's a dang good show, and you should all go out and watch it. If you can. Granted, I don't know the age of people that are watching me, but obviously the show is intended for adults. So, if you are not of the right age, maybe hold back. Maybe ask your parents if you can watch it. May not be intended for you. But I absolutely love the show. And it has introduced me to a bunch of DC characters that I had no idea were DC characters. They pulled some real obscure ones out of the back catalog for that show. For me, that was Kite Man was certainly that for me, because I was like, no, there can't be a Batman villain named Kite Man. What is this? And nope, there was a Batman villain named Kite Man. Yeah. Which also made for a nice little reference in the Peacemaker TV show. Because they also had a little reference to Kite Man in that. Which I appreciated, coming from the Harley Quinn show where Kite Man is a bit more of an important character. But yeah, so again, I'm saying a bunch of words that all ultimately come down to Harley Quinn is a very good show and you should watch it. However you can watch it. I believe they have physical media for the first season. Well, I know they have physical media for the first season because I have the DVDs for the first season. I don't know if they did physical media after that, because I don't remember being able to find season 2 on disc. But you should watch it if you can, because it's very, very good. Sorry, I'm going a little bit quiet there as I'm getting super duper focused on painting. It's very easy to just kind of get lost in this. It's looking pretty good. Let me give this a quick mix because it's getting a little thin again. Actually, hang on a sec. I will be right back. I'm just gonna go check on my dog real quick. So, here, have some music to listen to while I go check on her, okay? And sorry about that. I am back. Just had to go let the dog out because she was getting a little antsy. But that's taken care of now. So we'll get back to this. So we're just gonna give this a little mix again. And try to finish hitting the boots here, because the boots got a good base layer, but they're gonna need another layer to really get fully filled out. So let's hit this a little bit. I need to wet the brush a bit. It's a little dry. There we go. Yeah, so at some point in time, I'm gonna have to get season 3 of Harley Quinn loaded up. Give that a watch, because I have been eager to see more of that ever since I finished up the last episode of season 2. I need to know what happens with the characters. Oh, also, if you are looking for stuff to watch, this is a, well, not a super old show, but it's been done for at least a few years now, I think. Very much worth a watch if you can watch it somewhere. The show is Legion. It is technically a Marvel show. And by that I mean it uses some of the characters from Marvel Comics, more the X-Men side of things. It has no connection to the MCU. But that's honestly for the best. It works very well on its own. I would not want it to have a lot of connections to other things. Even its X-Men connection is pretty light. So again, I think that's for the best. But it's a very good show. It's about David Haller, who is the mutant named Legion in the comics, hence the name of the show. In the comics, he is the son of Professor X. He is a character that suffers from dissociative identity disorder. He is also a very, very powerful mutant that's his different identities all have a different all of his different identities have a different power that they are able to use. The show is live action. It stars oh god, what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name? I gotta look it up. Hang on. It's gonna bother me if I don't look him up. Come on, what's his name? Dan Stevens. There we go. So Dan Stevens plays David Haller. He's very, very good in the role. I wasn't really familiar with him before Legion. I understand he's been in Downton Abbey. Haven't watched it, but apparently he's well known for that. But I know him from Legion. He's very, very good in the show. And the show is very much, at least for the first season, it's very much you feel like you're watching it from David's perspective. You're constantly wondering what is real. So it's a very weird show to watch, and I really enjoyed it. The third season kind of delves more into the X-Men stuff, but it's kept very minimal. Like, I'm trying to think of what they have for characters in the show that are actually featured in the comics, because almost all of the characters in the show are creations for the show. But like David Haller is obviously from the comics. Professor X does feature in it a little bit more in season 3. And the Shadow King is in it as well. And I think those are the only characters that are in the comics that are in the show. But I honestly, like I said, I think that is for the best. The minimal connection with the comics, and more so the I'm fine with there being connections to the comics, but I desperately didn't want it to have any connection to the Fox X-Men stuff, and thankfully it does not. I like the X-Men movies to a certain extent, but it would feel very out of place for those characters from the movies to feature in the universe that this show exists in, because again, the first season is very, very much a is what we're seeing real? Is it just in the character's minds? That kind of stuff. So it runs into that kind of thing. And then going beyond that, the setting itself, like the world that this exists in, has a very excuse me. The world itself has a very anachronistic kind of thing. Like, it's like it feels like it's supposed to be present day, but there's enough stuff in there that is there's enough stuff in there that, like, the aesthetic is very 60s for a lot of stuff. Like the the aesthetic of the psychiatric hospital in the first season. The aesthetic is very 70s, 60s, 70s. The way that some of the characters dress is very 60s, 70s feel. So there's stuff like that, but then like some characters have, you know, touchscreen computers and stuff like that, and you constantly have to go, okay, when does this show take place? And ultimately it doesn't matter. Like the timelessness of the show makes you focus more on the story as opposed to, you know, when is this taking place? Because the when doesn't matter. The when doesn't matter at all. It's more, you know, getting to know these characters and what is happening with them and all the things that they go through and the ultimate message behind it and all that. Things like that. Like it's very much the aesthetic is there to make you question things, but it's also, you know, like I said, ultimately it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when the show takes place. It's all, what are these characters doing? What is happening? That kind of thing. That is all the stuff that ultimately matters in the show. And it's, like I said, it's very, very good. And it was only 3 seasons. I believe that was the intended the intended length of it. It feels very much like a story that has a very definite beginning, middle, and end. Doesn't feel like anything was left out. It feels like it was just, they got exactly what they wanted out of it. They didn't extend it to the point of, you know, this has been going on for too long, why aren't they just finishing it, kind of thing. Because unfortunately for a lot of TV, you know, they'll just keep extending stuff and extending stuff and extending stuff, and it's just, it gets to a point where, why? Just don't. Like, I love The Simpsons, but that show has been on for far too long. It has far exceeded the quality that it had, or it has, sorry, it has far exceeded how long it should have been on. The quality has dipped extremely low. It's unfortunate, like, because the early seasons of The Simpsons were very, very good. And, you know, it definitely, like, the early you know, like, the first couple seasons were, you know, they were a little rough. Like, the first season especially was very rough. But it really picked up. And some of the single-digit seasons were very, very good. They have some of the most memorable episodes in them. But then it started to dip, and it has continued to dip ever since. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, having the show on for the sake of having the show on is just not great. There is a point where they should just call it, you know? So. But it's, yeah, again, this was me going on a massive tangent. Just to say that Legion was well done. They made it so that it was a very tight show. Like each season is only 6 or 8 episodes, I think. And there's only 3 seasons, so it's very. They did a very good job of condensing it as much as they needed to, not making it overly long. It's just extremely good. Yeah, I have nothing but praise for the show. They did an excellent job with it. It'll be interesting to see if Marvel, now that Disney has the mutant stuff back because of the acquisition of Fox, because they've already said that they're going to be doing X-Men stuff. They are going to continue with Deadpool, and not, like, reboot it. They are going to just bring the character wholesale into the MCU with Deadpool 3. Like, it's not going to reboot it. They're not going to recast, because honestly, how do you recast Deadpool? Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. Like, when I was reading the comics before Ryan Reynolds got cast as Wade Wilson, I always read the voice of Deadpool in the comics as Ryan Reynolds. He is Deadpool. So it's yeah, it's a character that they could try to recast Deadpool. They could try to reboot Deadpool to bring him into the MCU. They would fail, because Deadpool 1 and 2 were not necessarily perfect movies, but they were such a perfect interpretation of the character that it's hard to separate those movies and that character from the character in general. Like, you can't really, like I said, you could try to bring Deadpool into the MCU by completely rebooting the character, get a new actor to play the role, don't use any of the material from the 2 movies that came before, just come in completely fresh. You could try, but you would need very, very good material, and you would need to be able to find someone that fits the character better than Ryan Reynolds, which I don't know if that's possible. Because he is Deadpool. And, you know, I remember going to see X-Men Origins Wolverine when it came out. Not really because I knew that Ryan Reynolds was playing Wade Wilson in it, but more because I had read the Wolverine Origin comic, which, by the way, that comic is very, very good. The movie that the comic is, or the movie that the comic is, or sorry, the movie that they made that's supposed to be based on the comic is not actually based on the comic at all. Maybe the first 5 minutes of the movie are, but after that it goes off the rails. Which is unfortunate because the comic was insanely good. The movie is not good, by the way. You should not watch the X-Men Origins Wolverine movie. It's just a terrible, terrible movie. But I remember going to see it, and I was disappointed by them immediately basically throwing the comic out the window. But when Ryan Reynolds came on screen as Wade Wilson, I went, oh my god, he is perfect in this role. He has such a small part in that movie, but he nailed the character right away. And the fact that they thoroughly ruined the character of Deadpool later in that movie. Now, not Wade Wilson. Wade Wilson was perfect in that movie. But they thoroughly destroyed what the Deadpool character was in that movie. That was Deadpool in name only. Which you can tell, given that they have quite... They have made jokes about the X-Men Origins Wolverine Deadpool character a couple times in the Deadpool movies. Like even to the point of killing that Deadpool in the post credits for Deadpool 2. So, like, they know that people hated that one. But yeah, so it's just like, this is all to say that Disney could try to do a different thing with Deadpool. They could try to recast. They could try to ignore the movies that came before it. They could try to do both of those things. I don't think it would work. And I think Disney overall needs to be able to say that their movies don't have to be, their Marvel movies don't have to be PG-13. I feel like they've said straight up that the Deadpool 3 movie will be R-rated, which I think is the correct call. That being said, they've basically said that Deadpool will be their only R-rated entries into the MCU franchise, which I feel is very limiting for them, and I feel will impact their other stuff as well. Because as I've said, I feel like they're going to tone down the violence and the general darkness of Daredevil in the Born Again miniseries that they do, because they're trying to do it on Disney Plus. Like the Daredevil show on Netflix was very, very much a rated R. Like all the Marvel Netflix stuff was very, if it had been a movie, it would have been rated R. It's TVMA. So that's my main worry with the Daredevil stuff, is that because they're bringing it into Disney proper. I mean, it was technically still Marvel proper when it was on Netflix, but I feel like they gave more leniency there. I feel like they need to be able to just say, hey, some of the Marvel stuff will be rated R. Don't bring the kids to this, if that's a concern. Part of the problem with that, though, is that some parents just don't check. I say this because I went to see go see Watchmen, the movie, when it came out. And that's very, very much an R film, an R-rated film. And, it's the ratings right there. Like, it's on the posters. It's, you go to the movies, it's got the R rating on it. But certainly seems like some parents didn't get the message, didn't look it up beforehand. Because when I went to go see that film, I remember seeing a bunch of kids in the theater with the parents, and then the parents got stood up and walked out their kids when Dr. Manhattan was on the screen with his dong out. And it's like, hey, listen, ratings are there for a reason. Make sure you go in with the knowledge that they give you. Like, just because the thing says it's a superhero movie does not mean that it is for kids. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. So yeah, so it's just like, I think Marvel, Disney, I guess, is very worried about associating the Marvel brand with rated R. They want to always keep it associated with, hey, you can bring your kids to see this, which I don't think always needs to be the case, and certainly was not the case for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Like, that movie is certainly not a rated R, but I would not bring children to go see that movie. It was very much a Sam Raimi horror film. And I say that being a big fan of Sam Raimi horror films. But I know that I'm sure well, I don't know, but I'm fairly certain that, some parents brought their kids to go see that movie. And their kids probably got scared, because it was a scary movie at times. But I feel like Disney needs to be okay knowing that some of their films will just not be intended for all audiences. Well, not all audiences, but some kids will not be okay going into some of the Marvel films, and they have to be okay with that. And I feel like, Deadpool is going to be a good testing ground for that. Because it's, the first two movies are certainly not for kids. They're gonna see with the third film that it is still gonna be just as popular, even though it's rated R, and gonna be tied into the MCU proper. And I feel like they need to be able to be okay with that and risk bringing other stuff into the MCU that is also rated R. It just, like, as much as I have issues with the DCEU, the DC cinematic universe stuff, their movie universe. As much as I have issues with some of their stuff, mostly the Zack Snyder stuff. As much as I have issues with it, they are letting their filmmakers try different things. Like, they're okay having some rated R stuff mixed in there. Like, Birds of Prey. They were okay with that. They were okay with The Suicide Squad being a rated R film. Like, they tried those things out, and they were very good movies, and they still fit well within the rest of the... Well, they fit in as well as they could with the rest of the DC stuff. Like, I already talked about how I feel like they're not cohesive movies in general, but ultimately, like, I think it's a good thing that DC is letting their creators try out stuff that is not necessarily going to work for all audiences. Because they don't need to. Like, a movie should be able to stand on its own, too. Granted, there's some, like sequels and stuff like that is always going to make a situation where a movie will not be able to fully stand on its own because it's going to rely on continuity from previous films, and that's okay. Certainly, like the excuse me, a lot of the MCU stuff is kind of getting to that point where you need to see all the previous movies, not just the ones from the other movies in that particular thing. Like, you can go watch Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, but you're gonna lose some context by not having seen the other stuff in the Marvel continuity. And it's just getting more and more to the point where you need to have seen everything, because the movies only work with the context of having seen the other Marvel movies. Like, you lose a lot of context for not having seen the other ones. So all the Marvel movies ultimately come down to, it's a growing, you need to have seen everything, because everything is considered to be a sequel kind of thing. So there's that. But the movies also need to be able to entertain on their own. Like, they need to be a cohesive story in and of themselves. They can't rely wholly on you having seen the previous Marvel movies. With the exception of, like, the Avengers films. The Avengers films don't really work outside of a... they don't really work on their own. You need to know all the stuff that's going into them. Need to do this statue. I think I'm gonna make it a stone statue. I think it works best being stone, as opposed to being being a bronze statue. I'm looking through my colors here. Got a sky gray, but that's kind of too light. I think a light gray will probably work. Oh wow, it's all already 6:20. I think the statue is probably the last thing we're going to be able to do tonight. And then I will do some of the detail work off stream. Actually, you know what? I'm going to run a little bit later. We'll do the detail work on stream. Because my dog's already had a chance to go out and get fed, so I feel like she's in a good state right now, and I can wait on dinner, so I think we're just going to go a little bit long tonight. That way I can do most of the detail work. Like, I won't do all of it, and very much I will not be doing like the clear coat and stuff like that on stream, because no one wants to see me just spray a thing down and let it sit for a long time. So There we go, that should be good. So now, I need some water. Well, I already got a drop in there, so we're gonna go with that. Alright, let me close this up. There we go. Okay, so we get this mixed. Get it nice and mixed. There we go. Okay. You know what? We're not going to use that brush because that brush is too small. Don't want to take forever trying to paint this statue. Alright, so let's hit up all the parts of the statue real quick. Okay, so get this completely covered. Sorry, I'm like painting this kind of outside of view. I'm trying to touch the model minimally in places that I've already painted, which makes for some awkward grips. There are some really good tunes in this soundtrack. There we go. And itchy nose there. Trying to scratch it while not getting paint all over my face. think this is the credits music. Because it's kind of like a medley of all the tunes. Or the main tunes, I should say. Alright, let's try to get the rest of... Yeah, like this is playing a medley of songs, so I feel like this has got to be the credit music. Okay. Hit the rest of this real quick. Doesn't need to look pretty, just needs to have good coverage. Okay. Yeah, that's good amount of coverage in there. We've hit basically all the main parts of that. Oop, missed a little bit there. Kind of missed a little bit right here. Some of the little smaller parts of this are a little bit harder to hit. I need to actually add a little bit of water to this and get it mixed. It's drying out a tad. There we go. Gotta figure out what I'm playing for a soundtrack next time. I'm kind of torn. I like to have more, I like to have more chill-sounding stuff for this, because, you know, Mellow Monday and all. But at the same time, I have some really good soundtracks that don't really have chill vibes, and kind of want to play them. I'm hoping people will just indulge me in that. Because, I have the Payday 2 soundtrack, which, let me tell you, Payday 2 soundtrack is really heckin' good. Like, that is... I think the Paydays 2 soundtrack was the first thing I bought on Bandcamp, because I was looking for it and found out that that was where you could buy it from. And it's just so dang good. Like, yeah, I think next time I will load that up, because it is, whew, man, just, it is decidedly not chill, but the tunes are just so good. This is also a very good soundtrack, though. There we go. You know what? For the rest of this, I think before I start hitting these rocks with gray, I'm gonna go over and give it a dirt color. Let's do flat earth. Flat earth sounds good. Wow, that's a hell of a name for the paint. Like, earth is a good color, and it's flat, meaning that it's not glossy. But good God, has flat earth gotten a different connotation in the last few years, and it's really sad that that is the case. Which actually reminds me, there's a very good video out there by Dan Olson of Folding Ideas, called In Search of a Flat Earth, I think, which goes over the resurgence of flat earthers and the movement in general, and it's very, very good. It's very much worth a watch. Dan Olson is very, very good in his videos that he makes. Because that is a really good watch, and his video that he made on cryptocurrency and NFTs was also very, very good and well worth a watch. Certainly, if you have some time, and for both of those videos, I hope you have some time, because they're both very long videos, but they are very much worth the time you put into them if you go to watch them. Covers the material very well. Does a very good job of presenting all of it. There we go. Here, we're just gonna hit all of this with an earth coat that way. Kind of separates it out from the statue a bit more. Let's hit this a little bit more. There. Got all of that. Nice and coated. There. Give that a little bit of a chance to dry. And then we can go over the rocks on the base. Try to give those a little bit of color. I'm actually going to use a different shade of gray for that. Kind of separate them out. That might be enough, actually. Let's see. With this brush real quick. There. Yeah, you know what? Going with the sky gray on this. It's definitely giving the rocks a different feel. Kind of separates them out from the statue a bit. There we go. There. a sec. There we go. I'm just switching screens on the computer real quick. Here. There we go. That's looking pretty dang good. Alright. No, you're not really seeing what I'm doing. Here, I'll try to tilt it up so it's a little bit easier to see, but I'm going through and trying to hit some of the rocks that are on top of the statue with the lighter color, the lighter gray that I've got. Kind of give it a little bit of a different feel. There we go. That's looking pretty good. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. Got quite the collection of brushes going on up here. I am going to take my dry brush. Just kind of go over this a little bit. Hang on. Come on. There we go. Pull the screen back up. There we go. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. You know, I'm just going to bring this over on this side so that I can get the excess off easier instead of reaching across. There we go. That's giving the statue kind of a weathered look. There we go. That's looking pretty good. You know what? We're going to empty out this cup of brushes that I've got up here. Dry all these off. Here we go. There. Okay. Got those. Whoops. Drop the cap. Alright, cool. So, probably good with that sky gray for right now. I feel like, yeah, like hitting the high points of the statue with the sky gray kind of gave it a little bit more of a little pop to it kind of thing. You know what I mean? You know what we're gonna do real quick though? we're gonna take some red. Take a little bit of red. There. Let's bring that into view of the camera. So, I'm gonna take some red. There. Gonna take a tiny bit of black. Just to darken up that red a little bit. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this to make the eyes slightly darker. Just to kind of separate them out from the rest of the costume. Because right now, the eyes are just kind of blending in with the rest of the costume. They have nothing to separate them, you know what I mean? So I feel like having the eyes be just a tad darker than the rest of the costume is gonna make them... You know, I hate to keep saying the same thing over and over, but it's gonna make the eyes more defined. Hate repeating myself, but it's really hard to deny that doing this kind of work, like having just a uniform color across the whole thing kind of just makes the whole thing blend together, not in a good way. But when you've got like little variances between parts of the model, it really helps give it a different feel. Makes it so that it's not just feeling like a slapdash, you know, like, oh, it went through and just did a big old paintbrush across the whole thing kind of thing, you know? There we go. Now, I don't know if it shows up super well for the camera, but the eyes are a little bit darker now. It makes them show up just a little bit better from the rest of the helmet. Like, it's subtle, but it gives it just a little bit of difference. And I'm gonna drop some water into this, thin it out a little bit, because we're gonna continue to use this darker red. We're gonna go through and kind of low light some areas. And that might be a little thin though. We'll find out. We'll see if I can make this work. Because what we're going to do is we're going to find areas that should be a little bit darker. So kind of like right at the base of the horns. Should be a little dark around the edges. So like these little creases right here. It's not like we're not going crazy. We're just giving it a little bit of a hit right at the base of the horns. Just give it a little bit of a difference. Same thing, we're gonna go like under the ears. Give it a little hits of a darker color. And that should help kind of make it look a little different. Make it a little bit more there, you know? Because if you look at it, we're looking at it this way. Let's say sun's coming down on it. Right underneath the horns, you're going to have a little bit of a shadow. Under the ears, you're going to have a little bit of a shadow. Like, they're seeing the figure, you're naturally going to see shadow just because of how light works. But if you actually add a darker color, and I'm not talking like a majorly darker color, like, you know, going overblown, like putting black underneath like these areas. But I'm talking just like if you go with a little bit of a different color, a little darker of a color on the undersides of things, it helps accentuate the shadows more. It gives its, again, I say this a lot, but it gives it more definition because you're seeing the shadow now, but you're also seeing these intentional shadows that are painted on, and it really makes the thing feel more real. Like if you hit these little creases with the darker color, it's gonna make it appear more shadowed than a base coat would show, and it really helps just make everything look a bit better. Like even right here, we'll hit this, the bottom of this knee a little bit. Oh yeah, you can already, like again, like I don't feel like the camera shows it super well, but like you can kind of see just a little bit of a difference hitting the undersides of things with this slightly darker color, and it gives it just a little bit of oomph. Did a little too much there. There we go. Just had to get it off of the belt. Yeah, like it gives it just a little bit of oomph, and it really just makes it pop all that much more. There we go. Yeah, that's looking really good. Let's see. If there's any other places I need to give this a little bit more of a hit. Like, let's do the abs just a little bit more. Because the abs, you'll notice it a lot. Like, it works super well for the abs. Like, actually, let's hit a little bit under the Browse as well. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Alright, so we did that. Alright, so now what we'll do is we're going to do the opposite. So we did all the low light areas, stuff that is down low, kind of the underside of things, things that aren't going to get a whole lot of light. We hit that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use red again. But we're going to add some red here. There we go. Going to add just a touch, tiny little dot of white to this. Just to lighten it up ever so slightly. There we go. That is going to look pretty good once we get it mixed. There. Okay, so take this, mixing it up. Be a slightly brighter red. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So then, thin it out just a little bit there. And honestly, if this is a little thin, that's fine. It'll blend better. So what we're going to do is, now that we've got that, where did I put my... Oh, there it is. Now that we've got that, we'll hit the tops of things. Anything that we think is going to be hit by light more. So, like, the tops of the horns. Like, those are going to be in the light more. And you know what? Top of the nose. Top of the nose is going to be a little bit more in the light. Tops of the ears. Stuff like that. Do a little bit of touching up on that. And then other things that we're going to hit. So, like, yeah, like, we did low lights and, like, the creases and stuff like that. We could hit the tops of everything with a lighter red, but I honestly don't think that would look as good. But what we can do is we can do, like, the tops of ridges will look good. Because then you have the change from a shadow to a mid color to a very light color on the top of stuff. Honestly, I think I might put a little bit more white in there because it's kind of just a little too subtle. I want it to be a little more exaggerated. Okay, that might be too much, but let's give it a good mix. Mixing. Okay, that's kind of mellowing out a bit. That could actually work. That is looking better. Yeah, you know what? I think that's going to show up way better. That is a very light red, and I think that's gonna show up way better. Really just make it look way better. Alright, let's give the tops of the horns. Yeah. That's gonna look way better. Alright. Top of the nose. There. Let's hit the tops of these. Dog song. Yeah, that's a good one. There we go. Yeah, that's looking better. Cool. I'm liking that. I'm liking the looks of that. You know, I'm gonna hit this ridge a little bit. Just kind of give some exaggeration to that ridge. There. Yeah, that's looking pretty dang good. Like, it gives it just a little bit more of a punch to the coloring. So now, we'll take the red brown. Getting quite the collection of toothpicks up here. We'll take the red brown, go a little bit darker on it. Hit the lowlights of the gloves and the boots. Alright, so that's And I think for the lowlights, like we're gonna do like the bottoms of the boots, that makes sense. Bottoms of the gloves, that makes sense. One of the things that I think will work super well if we do it is giving a small line of darkness between the fingers, like going in the creases on the fingers of the gloves, because that will, I might actually want to take that a little bit darker, because that will give a lot of visibility to the individual fingers on the gloves. Yeah, it's looking better. It's looking a little bit darker. Okay. There we go. Okay. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Let's try making these gloves look a little bit darker. Honestly, I should have gone with the darker shade right away, but we'll make do with what we got. Oh, that's the Temmie shop. I recognize that one right away. It's a good track. Temmie is one of the best characters in that game. Okay, so if we hit like bottoms of the feet a little bit darker. Hit like any place that is kind of an underhang on things, give it a little bit darker of a shade. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. I'm liking the look of that. Alright. I think I'm gonna call it right here. So, I still have to do the edge of the base. I gotta do that in blue. I might do a little bit more detail work, but overall, I like how this came out, and I feel like I don't need to do too much more work to finish this up. Like I said, like, me doing the blue ridge around this thing is nothing. Like, you don't really need to watch that. It's not a super interesting part of the model. But, like, the eyes really show up well now. The musculature shows up way better now, I think. Like, it's giving the whole thing a little bit better of a look to it. I could probably do a little bit more work on the statue. I might end up doing that just to try to, like, define things a little bit better on it. Like, I might add in some more detail work on the statue. I don't want to add in too much, because, again, it's not really the part of the model that your eyes should be drawn to, right? Like, you should be looking at the rest of them kind of thing. But I think, like, that's looking pretty good. So I don't think I have much left on this, but it's all really minor stuff that I'm honestly, like, I don't think is really worth watching. So, I think I'm gonna leave it here for right now, because I will have it finished once I come on the stream next time for another Mellow Monday. So you'll see it finished. But, like, there's not, like, it's pretty dang close to done. And I'm liking how it looks. So, yeah. We will leave it there for right now. And we'll be doing a different figure next time. I am not sure what figure it will be next. But we'll find out next time. It'll be a surprise. But yeah, I hope you had fun. As always, going a little bit loud on the mic. I had fun. I hope you had fun. And I'm looking forward to doing more of this. We'll absolutely continue to do this as long as people are interested in watching me do it. Because I am just having a super relaxing time with this. And it's a very nice break, honestly, to be able to do this. And I just feel like you know, it helps me chill out after a day of work. It helps me start off the week right. And it's honestly the other big thing is it's helping me get through my collection of figures that need to be painted. Because I have so many of these Marvel United figures that are just begging for a paint job. I don't even know how many figures I have left. It's gotta be... I don't know if it's 100. Well, you know what? With the Marvel United X-Men, it might be in the 100. It might be triple digits. But I've already gotten through. This will be the 5th one. And honestly, like, it's really coming out well, I think. So yeah. I was doing a very long wrap-up there. So yeah. I'm looking forward to doing more of this, and I hope you'll join me again for it next time. But in the meantime, I hope everyone has a very good night, good morning, good afternoon, whatever happens to be where you are. I hope to see you tomorrow. I will be back for some more Throwback Log Tuesday, where I'll be continuing through Gravity Rush 2. So I hope you do join me for that, because that'll be another fun time. But yeah, hope everyone stays safe out there, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye, everyone.